It's the 1970s, and while the West is grooving to disco beats, showing off the latest bell-bottoms, and embracing a new era of personal freedom, life in the Soviet Union is a whole different ballgame. In the USSR, people are dealing with constant shortages, government meddling in every aspect of their lives, and a culture that's all about putting the collective first. But what was it really like to be a Soviet citizen during this funky decade? Put on your best Soviet-style tracksuit, grab your ration card, and get ready to experience the weird, wild, and strangely wonderful world of the USSR in the 1970s. It's going to be a wild ride. Alright folks, get ready for a whirlwind tour of Soviet housing in the 1970s. First up, picture sharing your home with several unrelated families, each crammed into their own tiny room. Welcome to the infamous kommunalka. Privacy? Forget it! Everyone shares the kitchen, bathroom, and hallways. It's like living in a reality TV show, but without the cameras. You'd know everything about your neighbors, from their work schedules to their favorite TV shows. And let's not forget the occasional drama, like the time a neighbor passed out drunk and created a little yellow stream that slowly made its way into another family's room. Want a new neighbor? Tough luck. You're stuck with them and their habits for the foreseeable future. If you were lucky, you might get assigned an architectural marvel known as the Khrushchevka. These low-cost, concrete-paneled buildings would give you your own apartment, but with quirks like 5 stories and no elevator. A step up, but still every apartment is a carbon copy of the next. It's like living in a giant game of Tetris, where all the pieces are the same shape. Want to redecorate? Good luck finding wallpaper that isn't beige. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of Soviet housing in the 1970s. A unique blend of communal spirit and individual struggle. Stay tuned as we continue our journey through the weird and wonderful aspects of Soviet life. Alright, let's hop into our time machine and head back to the 1970s Soviet Union for a shopping adventure like no other. Imagine shopping as a mix between a treasure hunt and an endurance sport. First off, forget about supermarkets. You'd be hopping from the butcher to the bread shop, and then to the dairy store. And then there's the lines. You'd stand in line to enter, stand in line to order an item, stand in line to pay, and stand in line to collect. It was like a never-ending relay race, but with more standing and less running. See a line? Join it. You might score fresh oranges, a rare treat, or just toilet paper. The suspense was part of the charm, or the agony depending on your luck. And the shop staff? Picture customer service with a scowl. Shop assistants controlled access to goods and often looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. A smile? As rare as a tropical vacation. For a dash of luxury, there were gum and suum stores in Moscow. But brace yourself for Black Friday-like crowds. These grand department stores were like shopping meccas, drawing people from all over the USSR who would fly in just to be there. And if all else failed, there was the black market. Through BLAT, informal networks, you could score coveted items like Western jeans or high-quality electronics. Risky, but sometimes necessary. So next time you breeze through a supermarket, think of the Soviet shoppers who turned shopping into an art form of endurance and ingenuity. Alright, night owls, it's time to paint the town red and head out into the quirky nightlife of the 1970s Soviet Union. Imagine it's Friday night and you're off to the discoteca. These were held in cultural centers and parks, with playlists and slogans pre-approved to dodge the authorities. Dancing was a mix of fun and formality. No wild moves allowed, and proper attire was a must. The music? A blast from approved Western hits to local favorites. Just don't forget, end time was a strict 11 p.m. Not into discos? head to a bar if you had connections. Bars and hotels for foreign tourists were hotspots, open until 4 a.m. But beware, prices were sky high and they were crawling with KGB agents and high-class call girls. These were not for your average Soviet citizen. Living in an average Soviet town in the 1970s, cultural events were your escape from the mundane. Imagine catching a ballet, watching the latest Soviet blockbuster, or enjoying a local concert. These evenings were your ticket to high art and community spirit, making every night out feel like a mini revolution. But more often than not, a night on the town meant a more low-key gathering at a friend's cramped apartment. Huddling around a kitchen table, sipping vodka, and strumming illegal Western rock records. Just watch out for nosy neighbors and maybe a surprise visit from your friendly neighborhood police. All right, let's dive into the wacky world of Soviet work life. In the West, people were all about finding that ideal job and then climbing the corporate ladder and chasing that corner office. But in the USSR, you don't find job. Job finds you. Picture this. You're a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Soviet youth, fresh out of school. You're ready to take on the world and follow your dreams. But not so fast, comrade. The state had other plans for you. It was like a giant game of career roulette. You might end up as a factory worker, a teacher, or maybe a mechanical engineer. You were guaranteed a job, but the choice wasn't yours. Imagine, it's a month later and you're just starting your job at Gorky Automobile Plant number 3. You're determined to take car production in the motherland to another level, but you quickly discover not everyone is so enthusiastic. Worker motivation was about as low as a stock of toilet paper in a Soviet department store. Why break a sweat when your pay is the same, whether you're working hard or hardly working? Plus, with constant shortages of everything from blue jeans to borscht, what's the point of earning those extra rubles? And then there was the liquid lunch. With the stresses of Soviet life and the lack of other entertainment options, many workers turned to the trusty bottle of vodka to put a little extra pep in their step. The authorities tried to put a cork in it, but while they proudly proclaimed full employment, the reality was a bit more, shall we say, relaxed? And there you have it, comrades, the Soviet workplace, where full employment meets empty motivation, and productivity is as rare as a Lada winning Formula 1. From factory floors to vodka-soaked lunch breaks, the real skill is mastering the art of looking busy while doing nothing and perfecting your "I'm definitely not drunk" stumble. Ah, the joys of Soviet car ownership. In the West, cruising down the highway in a sleek convertible was the ultimate symbol of freedom and status. But in the USSR, getting behind the wheel was more like a never-ending episode of Survivor Soviet Edition. First things first, actually getting your hands on a car was no easy feat. A car would cost the equivalent of several years' salary. And you couldn't just waltz into a dealership and drive off into the sunset. Oh no, comrade. You had to put your name down and wait patiently for years for your turn to come. And when that glorious day finally arrived, you had a whopping 2 choices, the boxy Lada or the slightly less boxy but much more expensive Moskvich. But the real fun began once you finally had your very own set of Soviet wheels. Breakdowns were as common as a bread line, and spare parts were as rare as a pair of blue jeans in a Soviet department store. You quickly learned to become your own mechanic, tinkering under the hood with whatever makeshift tools you could scrounge up. But despite all the headaches and heartaches, 1970s Soviet car owners were a proud bunch in the top 10% of the population. And when they hit the open road, they felt like kings of the highway, even if the paint was chipped and the bumpers were held on with duct tape. All right, comrades, pack your bags. It's vacation time, Soviet style. While Westerners were jetting off to exotic locales and sipping cocktails on sandy beaches, Soviet citizens had a slightly different approach to vacation time. The crown jewel of the Soviet holiday experience was the trip to the Black Sea coast. Every year, millions of workers would pack their bags and head south, ready to swap the factory floor for the sunny shores of Crimea or Sochi. But this was no ordinary beach vacation. First, you had to navigate the complex web of Soviet bureaucracy to secure your coveted spot at a state-run resort. This often involved a delicate dance of favors, bribes, and connections, all for the privilege of sharing a tiny room with other families and a communal bathroom down the hall. Once you arrived at your seaside paradise, the real adventure began. Days were filled with mandatory group activities, from early morning calisthenics to endless rounds of volleyball and folk dancing. But it wasn't all fun and games. Soviet holidays also had a serious side, with a heavy emphasis on political education and cultural enrichment. You might find yourself sitting through lengthy lectures on the glories of the 5-year plan, or touring a local tractor factory to marvel at the wonders of Soviet engineering. And let's not forget the food. Soviet holiday resorts were renowned for their hearty, if somewhat monotonous cuisine. Think boiled potatoes, mystery meat stews, and endless bowls of kasha, all washed down with copious amounts of vodka, of course. Well, there you have it, comrades. A whirlwind tour through the weird and wonderful world of everyday life in the Soviet Union during the 1970s. So the next time you find yourself complaining about the minor inconveniences of modern life, take a moment to remember the everyday heroes of the Soviet Union. They may not have had it easy, but they sure knew how to make the most of what they had. Thanks for watching. Check out this video for more content, and don't hesitate to drop a comment about your favorite part. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more.